of my life is just about walking, just about awake. I just about run a volunteer organisation, just about connecting researchers to opportunities to be published, just about sharing it with the right people. I started because I love disability research for the disability masses, yes. So I started this social enterprise and I had all these great ideas. Just imagine my global vision out there changing the world. But then, partway through, I had to have a word with myself. You see, I treated my volunteers well, but not me. For me, just about sleeping was okay. Always working was okay. I got burnt out. You see, I didn't stop because I believed in what I was doing. It turns out my body did not. I built a whole organisation for everyone else, but I didn't include me. I don't talk about accessibility because accessibility is the bare minimum. Inclusivity is our living wage. Doing things the way you've always done doesn't work because things have always been exclusive and inaccessible. So, how do you change it? It's time to get radical. It's time to do things differently. We're going to talk to you a bit about burnout culture so you can identify it, and then when we're done, you can go and destroy it.
It is often said that the word can't doesn't exist, but living with an invisible condition such as sickle cell anemia, I hear the word can't far too often. I'm told I can't do this, I can't do that in order to stay well. But in actual fact, there's nothing that I can't do. There are, however, things that I won't do. And sometimes these won'ts are perceived as laziness by people who don't understand what it's like to live with an invisible condition. But it's not actually laziness. These are logical decisions that I make because I know my body better than anybody else. Being lazy is to not progress, not succeed, and not achieve, but these are all things that I am able to do as well as anybody else. Being logical is having the ability to understand my condition so well that I will know the things that I won't do and I won't feel guilty about the decisions that I make to not do them. So I won't apologize for having to use my blue badge to park in a disabled bay on a day when my hip flares up because I don't look like somebody who's had a hip replacement and will need my other hip replaced soon. I'm not going to feel guilty because I have had to cancel a pre-arranged appointment or a commitment that I've had because my body's suddenly gone into a serious sickle cell crisis and the pain is so bad that 10 milligrams of morphine just about numbs the pain. And I'm also not going to be stressed out for having to take several days off work because a common cold or flu has turned into a serious case of pneumonia and led to me having to be admitted into hospital and rushed to critical care. So there's nothing that I can't do. But when I'm tired, there are things that I will unapologetically not do, and I won't say sorry for that. I do this.
I'll get comfy. I live in perpetual burnout. I hold down a full-time job while living with a few conditions that you wouldn't know to look at. It makes me into a horrible parent and a pretty terrible friend. So I will say to myself that I'll pop into town after work and buy my daughter a birthday present. But when I've woken up in pain and I'm tired even when I've just woken up, by the end of the working day, there's nothing left and all I'm good for is just being rolled into my bed. And I'll make plans with people, I want to see people, I want to do things, but when it actually comes to the time of meeting people, I don't want to be vertical. I haven't got the emotional capacity to think of what to say in a conversation. I can't negotiate the bus stops and the other people and the places, so it's much safer just to stay horizontal. You cancel, and eventually the invitations dwindle, and I feel like I can't blame people for withdrawing when I don't put that much in. I feel like I don't really deserve friends when I don't treat them well. It's being the busy little worker bee. I turn up at work every day and I try to meet the expectations of my bosses and meet the needs of the children that I work with. I try to make sure that I'm always being productive and busy, but it's doing it over the noise from my body. So I'll be sitting there trying to talk to a child and my spine is screaming because I've sat on a chair, or my legs are complaining because I've had the audacity to walk around. Cheeky. And it's hitting that point pretty much about 12:30 every day when every cell in my body is screaming, just drop to the floor, close your eyes and stop. But it's maintaining professionalism, which means being busy. It's getting home so overwhelmed from all the input from my body all day that I can't make decisions. And I know I'm supposed to put really good fuel into my body and I can eat my way to health, but being so exhausted that I can't decide how to do that, that I end up in bed with a bowl of cereal for dinner. It sometimes feels like being in a room where the walls are getting smaller and smaller, and there's a door, and I can see that there's a door, but I can't get myself through that door somehow. And so you kind of end up hating myself, really, because I should be able to do better than this. It's not so hard. But it also allows us to have really deep connections with other people living horizontal lives. And through the conversations that we have when we connect, learning that I don't actually hate my body for being how it is. That's just how it is, and that's fine. And I don't have to apologize for being a human who has needs. That's human. And most crucially, that I'm not bad for not being able to fit into the system as it is, because that system doesn't work for people.
In my younger years, I was told to dream big and that anything is possible. Until I realized in order to achieve my dreams, in this case theatre, burnout just became part of that package. You see, the system in which we work in says that in order to achieve high quality things, burnout is just part of how we do it. But what if the cost of burnout is more than just a few days feeling tired? What if it's extreme pain, loss of finances, and in the worst case, death? You see, when I was 17, I was accepted onto National Youth Theatre. I was really excited because they said this would be a snapshot of what living and working in theatre would be like. But on my final performance, I ended up exiting it in an ambulance. And it was at that moment that I kind of accepted that theatre just wasn't for me. Not because I didn't enjoy it or because I wasn't good at it, but because I just couldn't see a space in this world for my tired body to exist in. But that's the thing about dreams. They never really go away. And so fast forward 10 years and Horizontal was born. And Horizontal is an ongoing artistic research project which asks, how do we make high quality theatre and also still look after our bodies? Seems simple, but you'd be so surprised how little we do that. And through that process, the Horizontals was formed, a group of women and non-binary people who live with health conditions and have achieved amazing things, but not necessarily because they've always had the support in the system to do that, but they've done it anyway. Horizontal asks the question, how can we be involved in this work conversation when sometimes we're horizontal in pain? Horizontal poses the question of how can we challenge the current hierarchical, capitalistic system and work more horizontally? We're at the point where we're not asking, can we do this? We're asking, how will we? Because we exist and we need spaces to exist in. You see, I think we're in a societal epidemic. I think that we're still working in this industrial way which centers burnout and it fetishizes it. And not only are we doing that, we as cogs in this giant machine have romanticized and become addicted to it. We've made burnout the only way that we can make high quality projects and work. And the cost of this is affecting us all. But have a think about also who that's excluding. Who's sitting on the sidelines because their body just cannot push that far, because they just cannot be involved in the way that we currently are working. Have a think about how we might change this. Because the reality is we are now attaching value to how much we output, how productive we are. And have a think about the impact that has on people's worth when we do that. You see, we're often told that we don't look sick. And you see, the disability rights movement has made loads of progress in the last 50 years. But still in our spaces, there are people who are invisible and silently dealing with pain because they would much rather sometimes work horizontally, but they're forced into work in this vertical way. And I want to say, Birmingham, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to change the way that we work so it's not just about accessibility, but it's widening it to centre care? Because inclusivity for us is not just a buzzword. It is our living wage. And we cannot do things how we've always done them because the way we've always done them have always been inaccessible and exclusive. So are we going to look at our ways that we do things? Are we going to identify this culture that is killing us? Are we going to identify the burnout in our lives, stand up, resist, and destroy it? Thank you.